I believe we're ready in the AV room.
Wonderful. Okay, we're back from our lunch break. It's now 1:07. And we will now move on to the next item on the agenda, item 15. Oh, okay. Okay, where are we?
We're on item 14. We
There
went
we
to
go.
lunch a few minutes
Yeah, I
earlier.
apologize.
I
Jumped
apologize.
ahead there. Okay, so this is item 14, Executive Director's Report.
Okay. Good afternoon, Chairman Gaines, honorable members. First, members, let me begin by saying Happy New Year. My team and I are ready and committed to continuing the good work under the board's leadership. For my report today, I will cover a few upcoming events, then close with a recap highlighting some of the agency's many accomplishments during 2024. But members, before I get into these items, I want to provide the board with a brief update on the Los Angeles County fires, wildfires. First, I want to say that our hearts and prayers go out to all of the residents and communities that have been impacted by these devastating fires. Soon after the wildfires began, I directed our communication chief to immediately prepare a news release outlining the available property tax disaster relief, which was issued on Tuesday, January 14th. The information was covered by various Los Angeles area media outlets. As you know, Section 170 of the Revenue and Taxation Code provides property tax disaster relief to victims of the Los Angeles and Ventura County wildfires. To summarize, especially for those from the public who are watching, the general requirements are properties in government-proclaimed disaster areas or properties that have experienced misfortune and calamity may qualify for property tax relief so long as the loss estimate is at least $10,000 of the current market value of the property. And property owners must file a claim with the county assessors within 20 months from the date of the damage or destruction. However, I know that Assessor Prang is being extremely proactive by filling out the claims for the property owners in his county. However, he is asking for the people to follow the claims when their time permits as a way of him obtaining current contact information. Approved claims will be eligible for a temporary reduction in property taxes, and only once the property is rebuilt, the property's pre-damage value will be restored. Eligible property owners may also receive a postponement of their next regular property tax installment until the assessors reassess the property due to the damage. There are also other provisions within the law that help affected property owners depending on whether they decide to rebuild or if a different property is purchased. All of these details are outlined on the BOE's disaster relief webpage and the recently published information guide for disaster relief for damaged or destroyed property. We encourage anyone to visit our websites for these resources.
Excuse me, Mr. Executive Director. I understand that this is a calamity, and when there is a calamity, the statute allows the assessor to proceed without having an application. I can see the importance of an application so he can see who he's talking to, but in the absence of an application, he has a property address and assessor parcel number. He has every legal ability, and I've urged him to do so, to go forward and assist the property owner. And I just want to make it clear that his action is not 100% dependent upon him getting an application.
Thank you for your comments, sir. As I said, the Assessor Prang is being very proactive in this matter.
Yes, yes, I'm very pleased with it.
There are also other provisions to help affected property owners depending on whether they decide to rebuild or a different property is purchased. All details are outlined in the BOE's disaster relief page. Speaking of the informational guide, I am aware that Board Member Vasquez, who represents Los Angeles County, and his team has been present at and distributed hundreds of copies of the informational guide to affected property owners at the various local assistance and disasters resources. Thank you, Member Vasquez and your team. Also, Controller Cohen has issued a news release on Tuesday, January 21st, amplifying the information the BOE released earlier this month. Thank you, Controller Cohen, for your assistance. Finally, members, I understand that many of you are having individual conversations with stakeholders on exploring ways to provide additional property tax relief. I want to assure the board that agency staff and I have also been in active conversation with the administration and the legislature and providing insight into ways to provide quicker property tax relief to those affected. Please know that our stakeholders have been tapping into the BOE's expertise and knowledge. These conversations are ongoing, and when more concrete proposals are available, I will update and inform the board. As you know, members, on Thursday, January the 16th, the governor issued an executive order extending the state property tax deadline for Los Angeles County and Ventura County firestorm victims. The deadline is extended into April 2026. Thank you. I'm available to answer any questions that you may have on wildfires.
Great, thank you, Ms. Stowers. Members, do you have any questions?
Okay.
More of a
Member
comment.
Vasquez.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for your presentation. And I just wanted to thank you also publicly, because I know we had several conversations right after the disaster started here in LA County, and just appreciate a lot of the support you and your staff provided.
You're welcome. We're
Looking
here.
forward to working on some of this down the road here.
Yes, we're here to support you in every way possible.
Appreciate it.
So I would like to move on to,
Could I ask just a
Sure.
clarification? You already mentioned it, but could you repeat the timeframe and the amount of potential benefit from the tax perspective?
the first
had
one
laid
under RT 7170, they will, look at my notes. Once it's a governor declared disaster, they can have property tax relief if the damage is $10,000 or more in market value.
Okay.
This relief does require them to file a claim with the county assessor, but again, the assessor has been very proactive in going out there and doing it himself, but would like for the property owners to file just so they can have a current address. And it does provide for a reduction in property taxes, so when you have this damage, the assessor will go out and look at the value of your property as of the fire.
Okay.
And then that should take a significant reduction in your property tax.
Okay.
And you will pay property tax on the damage stage until you restore the property or buy new property.
Okay. So
Once you file the
taxation
claim,
follows the value because the value
yeah, the
dropped,
taxation
right?
follows the value. So the
Yeah.
value would drop, let's say, all it is going to be now is land.
Yes.
So that value would drop.
And it'll go to the date of the incident. So if it takes them a while to process, I imagine they'll backdate to the
They
date
were
of the
backdated.
loss.
Once the claim is filed, it automatically defers the collection of property tax.
Okay.
And on top of the governor's executive order given into April 2026.
Okay.
It also provides an opportunity, gosh, I should have this in my head by now. Dave, don't let me misspeak. That you have 5 years, got it. You have 5 years to get your rebuilt property.
Okay.
And as you guys pointed out, with the Paradise Fire, it took longer than 5 years, and they did get special legislation to provide them with 8 years.
Oh, okay. Very good. Yeah, thanks for that clarification. And then how many months do you have to file?
Currently, you have 12 months to file a claim. There is some discussion of possible legislation that will extend that to 24 months.
Okay. So it could be up to 24, and then the minimum again?
A minimum of 5 years to replace, and to be quite honest, there is some discussion about
Okay.
extending that time frame as well.
Okay.
The language is not finalized yet, so I don't want to misspeak.
That's great. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, any other questions?
I had a question.
Yes.
What
Member
if
Schaefer.
somebody doesn't file because they're incompetent or what the problem is? The assessor still has the legislative right to initiate an analysis of the problem to somebody in an affected fire area. I guess it's up to the assessor what he or she wants to do about it because they're independently elected people. I was just concerned if,
Yes,
Member
but
Schaefer, can you put that microphone
I
closer?
understand your question. What if someone doesn't have the capacity to file within the 12 months or the possible longer time frame? The assessors are aware of this just devastating wildfires, so they are being extremely proactive to make the
because,
adjustments.
or people that may be capable of filing, that think filing's been made by their attorney or by their family member, when it really hasn't, you know.
Right, right. I think a lot of it is getting the word out, and that's why the assessors and their team, and Member Vasquez and his team has been out there to let the people know about the relief that's available to them, and letting them know that they don't have to charge a representative to get it done. So it's really about to
I have
getting the
no
word out.
criticism at all. I'm very pleased with what's going on.
Okay. So next, members, I would like to highlight a few important upcoming events. Up first, on February 27th, the California Taxpayers Association, Caltax, has invited the BOE to speak and participate in their upcoming webinar panel titled Navigating Disaster Tax Relief, Supporting Taxpayers in Challenging Times. I will report out on that event afterwards. And then on April 21st to April 24th, the Bay Area Assessors Association will hold their annual regional conference in Napa. The conference is hosted by Napa County Assessor, Recorder, and County Clerk John Tudor. I will continue to keep your office up to date on details of the upcoming events. Now, with your permission, members, I would like to take a few minutes to reflect on the agency's accomplishments for 2024, and I do believe you have a handout in front of you.
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Members, as the board secretary and agency executive director, I am extremely appreciative of your leadership and support to move the agency forward. Further, I am honored to work with a team of extraordinary people, the employees of the State Board of Equalization, whose professionalism, expertise, and dedication to the successful administration of our programs continues to impress me daily. Staff has been reporting on their progress and work activities throughout the past year. And now I would like to highlight some of our 2024 accomplishments. Starting with board proceedings and Operation Support Service Division. Board proceedings has facilitated the annual meeting of the State Board of Equalization and the county assessors in September. And thanks to board proceedings and CDTFA media production team, I would like to highlight that they have successfully transitioned the board meeting to this lovely Mayley State Office complex. They have facilitated 15 in-person hybrid public meetings, including board meetings and informational hearings. Board proceedings appeals case management processed 33 appeals during the calendar year. Board proceedings and Operation Support Service has prepared and submitted 90 purchase and contracts requests. Prepared, facilitated, and submitted 43 hiring packages, completed the onboarding of 28 employees new to the agencies. Additionally, 20 employees moved up the career ladder and were promoted during the year. These are the same employees that Ms. Lombardi talked about throughout the year. The Property Tax Department State Assessed Property Division. They produced and prepared the 2024 board roll of state assessed property with a total assessed value of $152 billion, representing approximately $2.5 billion in property tax revenues for schools and local governments. produce, prepared for adoption, and build the 2024 private railroad car tax roll for an annual amount of over $10.2 million that would go to the state's general fund. They successfully completed 30 state assessed property appeals, completed 20 property tax audits, physically inspected and valued over 8,000 state assessed land parcels. They processed 677 statement of land changes and coordinate the corresponding assessment jurisdiction for each change with the 58 county assessors. They processed 229 jurisdictional boundary change, resulting in over $315,000 in revenue for the state general fund, and produced the 2024 valid tax rate area list with 61,000 tax rate areas. The Property Tax Department Assessment Practice Survey Division, they publish comprehensive compliance audits, surveys, and sampling for 7 counties, including Sutter, Ventura, Trinity, Salona, San Bernardino, Mariposa, and Contra Costa. Members, as you know, this is one of our core functions to promote consistency and uniform statewide assessment practices. They have also fully implemented Prop 19 changes into the scope of their compliance audits. For the Property Tax Department County Assessed Property Division, they responded to over 14,000 property tax inquiries from stakeholders, issued 53 letters to assessors and 28 county assessors-only letters. The County Assessed Property Division issued 155 permanent advance appraisal certificates, 103 permanent and advanced assessment analyst certificates. Additionally, in 2024, they provided training to 757 students in 19 different virtual courses and 6 in-person courses. 289 students in the class provided through American River College and Sacramento State University, and 709 students via the graduate self-study session. They issued 835 organizational clearance certificates and 327 supplemental clearance certificates for the welfare exemption. The County Assessed Property Division discovered and reported 615 change in control and 315 change in ownership to county assessors, resulting in a reassessment of the California real property held by such entities. The County Assessed Property Division released electronic form, the BOE 100B Statement of Change in Control of Legal Entities. Taxpayers can now complete, sign, and submit this form electronically. The division also released 6 more electronic forms that are filled with the BOE for the welfare exemption. As part of the co-op agreement with the Franchise Tax Board, the County Assessed Properties collaborated with FTB to streamline the questions pertaining to legal entities with California real property on all 5 income tax forms. And they also updated the Assessor's Handbook sections 531, residential building costs, 534, real building costs, and 588, equipment and fixtures. Next, the Communication Department is next. Several publications was updated, including the BOE's annual report, the Taxpayer Rights Advocate annual report, as well as new publication on the BOE's Strategic Organizations Transformation. Last year, we implemented a push to remind taxpayers affected by wildfires and winter storms, which have become more common in California, that they may be eligible for property tax relief reduction. This was in conjunction with the Taxpayer Rights Advocate's Office issuing the informational guide, Pub 802. The Communication Department, in partnership with the Taxpayer Rights Advocate's Office, also successfully communicated strategies to inform taxpayers and stakeholders about the Taxpayer Bill of Rights hearing by creating an outreach toolkit, utilizing electronic communication, and engaging partners in promoting the hearing. Similar to 2023, there was approximately 60 social media posts on our channels for 2024. Legislative research and stats accomplished the following. 2 board-sponsored bills were signed into law. First, SB 1527 extends the current 50,000 low-value exemptions ordinance, limited that a county board of supervisors may apply to any taxable possessory interest. The extension is for 5 years, until January 2030. Second, SB 1528 accomplished three primary changes for BOE. One, it authorized electronic services of levies under the alcohol beverage tax program. Two, amends the RT section to align insurance tax program with other tax and fee programs. And three, amends the RTC section to require electronic filing of supplemental reports, including schedules required from alcohol beverage license. Additionally, three board-supported bills were signed into law. AB 1868, expanded the availability of electronic signatures authored by Assemblyman Gibson. AB 2353, allow the deferred or cancellation of property tax payments for welfare exemption applicants authored by Assemblyman Ward. AB 2897, allow a wholly owned subsidiary of a community land trust to qualify as a COT if it is solely directed and managed by the COT, authored by Assemblymember Conley. They also calculate the private railroad car tax rate and the 4:1 ratio. Equal Employment Opportunity Office has successfully completed the biannual language survey. The BOE Disability Advisory Committee successfully held its fourth annual virtual event, which focused on mental health and illness and homelessness. The EEO office administered the annual training program plan for which the purpose is to assist employees in their short and long-term professional development goals. The EEO office also administered the California Department of Human Resources annual statewide employee veterans and disability survey. The Taxpayer Rights Office completed approximately 380 taxpayer cases, providing responses and resolving taxpayer issues. Published the Taxpayer Bill of Rights annual report, held the annual Taxpayer Bill of Rights hearing, and in the area of taxpayer education, the TRA office published 2 information sheets to assist taxpayers. Additionally, the TRA office issued a new education resource for taxpayers about disaster relief. And finally, the legal department. The legal department has issued 6 legal opinions on novel and complex property tax issues facing the 58 counties, responding to over 212 legal inquiries by providing resources and analysis to assessment appeal boards, county assessors, and the public. Submitted 1 rulemaking package to the Office of Administrative Law, and had 26 litigation cases against the BOE closed or dismissed. That is my review of 2024. I must say, staff has done an excellent job.
Wonderful.
And I am available for any questions with respect to the accomplishments.
You did a great job going through that. You covered a lot of ground. So we appreciate that.
Okay.
Members, any questions? Yeah, Vice Chair Lieber.
I just have a comment that
Member Vasquez.
it's really amazing the powerhouse that staff is here and how much gets done on behalf of our constituents in advancing legislation, helping individual taxpayers, accurately and fairly assessing properties, and so much more. So a huge thank you to staff for the work that you do every year. It's really amazing to get this kind of report at the end of a year and see how it all added up. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Other comments? Okay, Deputy Controller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also just want to echo Vice Chair Lieber's comments and just thank you, Executive Director Stowers. I want to thank all the division leaders and chiefs in the auditorium today, all the hard work you're doing. The numbers speak for itself, the stats speak for itself, and the Controller and I both believe the board's hitting a good stride at the perfect time, and I'm really looking forward to 2025. Thank you.
Great. Member Vasquez.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Stowers. And this is, I know we had been talking about this for a while, and this is great to see it now actually in writing. And I didn't realize how much you've been doing, right? As I'm looking at all this, right? Which is good, and I really appreciate it. And I know this 25 is going to be a tough one, as we're looking at more, especially as I was reading some of the things that we attempted to do on the legislative side. And this being a 2-year cycle, looking forward for your support, especially the staff, because there's going to be some real tough challenges, I think, moving forward
Yes.
on this rebuild. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Job well done, very thorough. I did have a question on the exemption ordinance for low value with SB 1527 that extended the current $50,000 low value exemption. What is included under possessory interest? What sort of items would that be?
Yes, thank you very much for the question. This is David Young, Deputy Director of the Property Tax Department, for the record. What we did there was we did just that. We extended the ordinance. We gave the counties the option in which they could actually not assess that type of possessory interest. Possessory interest is the private use of any government property for private benefit. So typically, a concessionaire in a government building may have a taxable PI, a taxable possessory interest. So if the value of that PI falls below 50,000, the assessor has the option. If they have that ordinance, they can go ahead and not actually make the assessment on that one and send a tax bill for it.
Would that apply to something like a hot dog stand that was on a trailer at a state fair? Or county fair?
It would also apply to that.
Yeah, okay.
So that is also a possessory interest if it's at a state fair. In general, so that, without getting into the weeds too much, there's a permanent exemption for that type of fairground type exemptions.
Okay.
This one is just a little broader. It covers all PIs.
Okay,
So it's just a little broader.
okay, great, thank you so
Okay,
much.
Of course.
All right, and Member Vasquez.
Follow up to that. And I had this conversation with, actually my assessor, as we move forward on the rebuild, for example, as we're looking at some of these parking lots on the Pacific Coast Highway, there's some discussion of possibly turning some of those into like trailer parks while people are doing the rebuild. That would fall under this category, or does that get exempt? How does that?
It would depend on these parking lots that they're planning on using for rebuilds and temporary housing and whatnot. If that's government-owned property,
Yes.
then there is a potential for a possessory interest. If you're able to put a structure there, temporary or whatnot, there could be a PI. So if that is the case, this extension may take care of it if the PI, if your possessory interest is worth less than $50,000. So that may help.
Okay.
Okay. Since I'm up here, if you allow me just to take this opportunity to clear just something up.
Sure.
There was a question asked about disaster relief under Revenue and Taxation Code 170, and whether you actually do need to file a claim for disaster relief. The answer is a little bit more nuanced. Right now, most of the counties that are affected have that provision in their county adopted ordinance that the assessor, under their own volition, can start disaster relief. That may not be the case for all counties. Not all counties have that provision in their ordinance that allows 170 relief. So out of abundance of caution, those folks that are hearing our meeting, please file. We're pretty sure the counties affected in the Southern California fires have that provisions, but some may not. Some of the northern counties may not have that provision. So if you do experience a disaster such as this, please file. If for no other reason, it gives the assessor some current information as to how to get in contact with the property owner. So not all counties may have that ability to start the disaster relief process without an application.
Okay, and are we providing that clarity on our website? Or that
It is.
disaster relief?
Yeah, it is. It's a very nuanced thing. So,
Collier County.
yeah. So 170 relief is predicated on each county adopting that provision in an ordinance. All 58 counties have it. They've all adopted it. The minimum time you have to file a claim is 12 months. In your county ordinance, you can actually state a longer term than 12 months. You can make it 24 months for your county. Some have and some have not, but you have at least 12 months.
Okay.
And most counties have the provision where they can actually start the process without an actual application from the property owner, but not all may. So just out of abundance of caution, please file. If nothing else, it protects you and it gives the assessor a way to get a hold of you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Ms. Stowers, anything else?
Thank you, Mr. Young. I can always count on you. Okay, and my final note, I would like to request the board to adjourn today's meeting in honor of Ms. Keiko Ward, who passed away unexpectedly earlier this month. She was a tax technician too in the legal entity ownership program since 2021. Keiko made a meaningful impact on the agency through her eagerness to learn and grow and by providing outstanding customer service to California taxpayers. Her commitment to helping others, ensuring their concerns were addressed with care and professionalism, was a testimony to her character. Keiko has a unique ability to uplift those around her through her positive attitude and welcoming smile. She was not only our co-worker, but a great friend to many. She will be deeply missed by her colleagues, and we will never forget her contribution to BOE. That completes my remarks, and my executive team will follow.
Thank you. Wonderful. So the next item on the agenda is item 15, operational priorities report and quarterly budget report presented by Ms. Renati.
Good afternoon, Chairman Gaines and honorable members. I am Lisa Renati, Chief Deputy Director. Today I'll report on some of the agency's strategic efforts on BOE's workforce. We continue to actively fill our recruitments and fill our vacancies rather. And since our last meeting, we have filled 2 vacant positions. One is an employee new to the Board of Equalization, and the other is promotion of an internal candidate. Our management team has done an amazing job continuing to recruit and fill our vacant positions over the last year, as evidenced by the 48 completed hiring packages during the calendar year 2024. Of these 48 hiring packages, 20 were promotions, and the remaining 28 were filled by employees new to the BOE. We're very encouraged by the number of new employees we are able to recruit from other state departments, county offices, and experienced professionals in the appraisal field. This is a good indication that our recruitment strategies and activities are working. And also, members, as you know, succession planning is essential to our agency to ensure long-term stability and growth of our agency. We are actively working to prepare our current staff for leadership roles. We offer resources to them through our intranet to help build their career paths. And we are also continuing to focus on leadership training for our managers so that they have the tools that they need to successfully grow in their roles. And before I move on to the next item, do you have any questions on the agency's workforce and succession planning?
Any questions, members? Seeing none.
Okay, so the next item is our quarterly budget report. As you know, our budget appropriated amounts are from the general fund. Currently, about 86% is for our personnel services. That's our salaries and benefits, and the remaining 14% is for our operating expenses. Our fiscal year 24-25 budget appropriation has been permanently reduced through the requirements of the 2024 budget. This eliminated vacant positions, and it also reduced part of our operating expenses. The total reduction is about $1.2 million. Based on our most recent expenditure reports, we are projected to spend about 90% of our budget. However, I expect that number to increase as we fill the remaining vacancies. And lastly, as you know, earlier this month, the governor introduced a proposed budget for 25-26. As of right now, we have no further reductions to BOE's budget in either expenses or in our positions. We will continue to follow the budget discussions and let you know of the progress and any updates that come forth. And that concludes my report for the budget. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Ms. Renati. Any questions or comments? No? Thank you. All right, members will now move forward on item 16, Chief Counsel Quarterly Report, presented by Mr. Moon.
Good afternoon, Chairman Gaines, members of the board. I'm Richard Moon, Chief Counsel. And before you, you have a quarterly report for the fourth quarter of the legal department's activities. First and foremost, I want to thank all the legal staff, especially for their hard work during appeal season. As you probably recall, we're a bit short-staffed, and so everybody had to pull a little bit of extra weight. They did a phenomenal job getting us through and handling all of the appeals, as well as the appeals attorneys doing the appeals conferences, as well as writing up all of the summaries for the members, for all of you. Just a couple highlights out of the numbers that you see in front of you. We did a couple presentations, one before the California Tax Policy Conference, and then one before the County Councils Association. So that was an opportunity that we had to talk about the board and some of the work that we do. And then the other thing that I wanted to highlight for you was that we were able to hire a new attorney this past quarter who just began with us at the beginning of this year. So we're excited to have him. And we are also currently actively recruiting to fill 3 more positions. And so we have 3 positions because we had 2 internal promotions, and then a couple attorneys left us to go to other agencies. So we are actively trying to fill those. Currently, we're still a little bit understaffed, but we're doing the best with what we have. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, members? Yeah, Member
Just
Vasquez.
one real quick one. Thank you for the report, Mr. Moon, but, you know, according to the report, there were 0, is that right, regulations completed in quarter 4, but there were, I guess, 8 new and pending in quarter 1.
Yes, so the regulations category that you see there has to do with regulation packages, and as well as some other related activities to those packages. So there were none in the quarter that we had filed with the Office of Administrative Law, but we've got a bunch in the pipeline.
That are just basically in progress, I guess.
In progress, correct.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, Member Schaefer.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moon. A couple of months ago, I asked for some opinion or statement that assures me that I am a member of a constitutional officer of the state. Our executive director says, of course you are, and that's the way I feel, but I've had a letter from the Attorney General's office, which I have shared with the executive director, which questions whether we are a member. They may admit that the Board of Equalization itself is a member, but the individual members therein are not members. And because of the succession requirement, I feel we are members. I feel I'm number 12. If the other 11 people are out of state, I'm the acting chief executive of the executive branch. That's as way as I see it, and I was hoping that within 30 days of a member requesting something of you or through the executive director, we'd have something in writing so we could put the matter to rest. And I carry this around with me in my very crowded, limited space mind, and I'm hoping to resolve it one way or the other without going to the Attorney General's office. I would write them a letter, but they would say it takes us a year to give an opinion. I would think it'd take them just to 1 day. I mean, we're not asking them to give us a legal analysis of some major situation. We're just asking to confirm yes or no. Are we members of the Board of the Constitutional Officer Group? And I feel we are, but I have nothing to go on except Executive Director assuring me that I'm right.
So I apologize. Forgive me, but I don't recall that being an official request for us to do that kind of opinion. But what I can say informally, I know that the board members are constitutional officers. However, I suppose if there's a specific sort of instance or reason for which you're looking for confirmation for that might make it so. For example, you mentioned that the Board of Equalization members are in the line of succession in case something terrible were to happen to the governor and down the line. In the statute, the chairman of the Board of Equalization is in that line of succession, but the other board members are not mentioned specifically. So I'm not sure if that's specifically what you had in mind, but the position of the elected board of members is constitutional. They're in the Constitution, so in that sense, that you are constitutional officers, but it's only the chairman that's in that line of succession that's called out.
Oh. Okay, well, and so we are constitutional officers, except in the line of succession, only the chairman is the constitutional officer for that purposes, because a board as an entity is not a human being and cannot be the chief executive, but the board speaking through its chair can. I can see that. It would be nice if we just had a little note from you to the board confirming this, because when I'm told by the Attorney General's office they don't consider us line of succession, at least I have the executive director's opinion and your opinion, which makes me feel comfortable.
I will talk about that with our executive director after the meeting.
Sure, because I use the term that I am a constitutional officer with a lot of people, and I've never been challenged by anybody except when I asked the Attorney General's office for an opinion, they said, well, it can only come from the member in charge. Okay, thank you.
All right, well, thank you. Shades of Designated Survivor, the TV series. I don't know if anybody's watched that. It got a little too wild. I stopped watching it. But,
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your comments, and thank you, Member Schaefer, for raising the questions. Appreciate that. And I think we can move on to item number 17, Communication Chief's Quarterly Report, presented by Mr. Kim.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Gaines and honorable members. I'm Peter Kim, BOE's Chief Communications Officer. Today, I'll provide a brief overview of some major highlights and accomplishments for the fourth quarter of 2024 and a year in review. First, I'll provide some updates on the BOE website. The Proposition 19 webpage had approximately 30,861 unique external page views in the last quarter. Since its launch on November 2020, there have been approximately 695,322 total page views. During this quarter, the Guidance Issue tab was updated to include the recent LTA regarding Proposition 19 base year value transfer, frequently asked questions and answers. The Translate page had approximately 2,877 unique external page views in the last quarter. Since its launch on June of 2020, there have been approximately 26,556 total page views. Finally, with the recent change in board leadership, certain board member websites were updated to reflect the new board chairman and vice chair effective January 1st, 2025. Members, next I'll provide a brief year-end review of BOE's social media activities. As the executive director mentioned earlier, the BOE continues to utilize social media to expand our communications and stakeholder relations. Last year, social media posts included upcoming board meetings, Proposition 19 updates, career opportunities, disaster relief, news releases, important deadlines, hearings, and interested parties meetings, and general information about the BOE. In 2024, there are approximately 60 social media posts on all of BOE's social media accounts. We use several new social media graphics, such as including new division chiefs and other informational graphics. And finally, members, I will now provide a brief recap of the new and updated publications that the department facilitated in 2024. The memo provided to you lists all of the publications, but I wanted to note that today we provided copies to you of Publication 9, the California State Board of Equalization Strategic Organizational Transformation 2017 to present. So members, this concludes my report, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Members, any questions? Yes, Member Vasquez.
Thank you for that report, and actually, thank you for the updates, especially on the website. I was noticing you were quick to put on, especially things on the disaster relief. And I'm wondering, moving forward, as things, are constantly going to be changing, is there a process, especially as I'm dealing with some of these folks in LA, to try to get out as quick as possible some of the real and hopefully crucial information that they need, as soon as possible, so they have the latest, information to obtain, or especially when we're looking at possible extensions and deadlines and everything else that's going to be coming up.
Yes, thank you for the question, Board Member Vasquez. As our Executive Director mentioned in her report, as soon as the wildfires began, she directed me to immediately issue the news release, which we've done. I know that there are certain proposals that are in the works right now, and of course, if there are any new developments or any points of information that we need to share with the public, we will do it in the form of, a subsequent news release, whether it's on social media, updating our website and whatnot. And I know that Ms. Stowers has mentioned you've been on the ground constantly, and I know that you've been sharing it with your constituents as well. Yeah,
Appreciate it.
thank you.
Deputy Controller Emmerich.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Kim. I always appreciate your presentation. When I'm looking at here, goal number 2, under the strategic plan, BOE is modernizing our core tax administration functions and business processes by leveraging technology systems. Can you give me some examples of how that interrelates with the communications department?
Yes, thank you for the question, Deputy Controller. So as you are well aware of, since 2017, we've gone through a lot of growing pains, and so we've taken a lot of steps to utilize technology, whether it's to enhance the website, whether it's to reactivate our social media presence. As you're well aware of, board member offices did not have access to an intranet site, and our legacy intranet site was not updated as soon as the breakup happened. And recently, we launched MyBOE, our new intranet site for the agency and for board member offices for resources. So we're definitely using all the technological capabilities that are within our disposal to maximize communication, whether internally or externally. And so we're continuing to explore ways to leverage that.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
I think it's very important too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Kim. Member Schaefer.
Yes, this introduction brochure, this is March of '23. Do we update that? There's no reason to update it because it's all current. And what quantity do we have of these? I have no problem getting 100 of them if I want them. If I'm going to go out and speak, I'd like to have something to give to people. Do we have a 10,000 inventory or 500 or, and how often do we update it? This is March 23. I guess you wouldn't have any need to update it unless there was a change in membership.
Sir, Board Member Schaefer, yes, that's correct. The last time we updated that publication was to reflect the new board as well as the new equalization district boundaries. As you know, that the boundaries changed after the census. So we periodically update publications based on whether or not they need to be updated. We're foreseeing updating that publication probably once the new board is seated in 2027. But if there are any issues with the current publication, feel free to reach out to me or Ms. Stowers, and we'll definitely take a look at them.
Right, there's no reason to mention who's chair because that changes. I prefer it be kept as standard as possible.
Oh, yes, and to answer your question about the inventory, we don't have, I have a few copies in my office, but generally what we do is whenever any board member or their office needs copies, they could contact Ms. Stowers, and then she'll direct me to order and request printing of those materials. So
Oh,
we
you do print them, like if I needed 100 of them, you'd have to print them?
we would have our service provider print them for us on our behalf.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kim.
All right, thank you.
All right, we'll move on to our next item, number 18, Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office's report presented by Ms. Thompson. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Good afternoon, Chairman Gaines and honorable board members. I'm Lisa Thompson, the Chief of the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office, and I'm pleased to provide you with an update on the activities of the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office to keep you informed. First, as far as statistics on the number of completed cases by our office last month, we completed 27. 11 were in Chairman Gaines's district, District 1. 10 were in Vice Chair Lieber's district, District 2. 2 were in Board Member Vasquez's district, District 3. And 4 in Board Member Schaefer's district, District 4. 9 were from the administrative category, and 18 were from the valuation category. The memo that is attached to the public agenda provides additional details on all of the topics for each of those categories. However, the topic with the highest number of cases in the administrative category is 4 completed cases for special assessments and direct levies. And for the valuation category, the topic with the highest number of cases completed were 6 for change in ownership, followed closely by exclusions from reassessment, with 5 completed cases. Of those 5 exclusion cases, 3 were for transfers between parents and children, and 2 pertained to base year value transfers for seniors. Since we have started the new year, I would just like to take a moment to thank all of my team, Margie, Amy, and Unique, for all their hard work during calendar year 2024 and providing excellent customer service to those taxpayers. My team does handle a wide variety of cases and situations with varying concerns, which allows them to research many areas and keep them, current in all of their knowledge and experience. Their work on taxpayer cases is thorough and insightful. Generally, we track completed cases on fiscal year basis, and that data will be published in our TRA annual report that I will provide an update for next month. However, we continue to receive more and more cases and contacts from taxpayers. So with the completed case counts so far this year, this fiscal year, we are projected to exceed the number of completed cases from last fiscal year. Additionally, over the last 6 months, we have finished significantly more cases at this time last year, showing that my team is helping more people. This year, in calendar year 2024 alone, my team of 3 and myself have completed approximately 380 cases. That's compared to 329 cases in the fiscal year that we completed. So, in addition to helping taxpayers with problems that they have this year, we also published some useful educational resources for taxpayers. As Executive Director Stowers indicated in her remarks, the TRA office has issued some important publications this year to help taxpayers. So I would like to thank my team for all of their work toward taxpayer education. I think the information sheets are helpful, but the information guide on disaster relief that was recently published in August is particularly helpful, especially for those that are affected by the Southern Californias. This concludes my update. I'm available to answer any questions that you may have.
Great, thank you, Ms. Thompson. Members, any questions? Yeah, Member Vasquez.
Just a quick one. You mentioned that you've been real busy, and I was looking at this, I guess, in quarter 4, I guess it was, there were 18 valuation cases completed during that time. Is that a typical quarter, or is that something kind of unusual?
It kind of varies, but I would say the majority of our cases typically are in the valuation category. Certain times of the year, we do see more in the administrative category. Typically, that is in times maybe, June 30th is the default date for property taxes. If you didn't pay your first installment or second installment, then that defaults as of that following June 30th. And so that's when they go delinquent, start to accrue more penalties also. That unfortunately is a time that sometimes tax sales happen. So in those months or the following, we do have more cases, say in special assessments or delinquent taxes, those categories.
And I'm kind of anticipating there's going to probably be an increase, especially after this disaster. And I'm wondering, is there any way of tracking that?
Well, it depends. I mean, I think we'll see more in the categories as far as, base your value transfers possibly, but our agency, has good information posted on it. I think having this disaster publication will help also get the word out so they're aware of, of how relief is given and like how a base your value transfer, is made, the timeframes that they need to do it, the, what the confines that they need to stay under in order to avoid any excess market value being assessed as new construction and that. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Great, thank you. I just had a question in terms of the number of cases, because you mentioned fiscal year. Last year was 327. So the 380, is that another, are we comparing fiscal year to fiscal year on those numbers? 380 versus 327?
No, I went for the calendar year. So the
Calendar,
executive.
okay.
Yeah, so all of our reports are issued based on the fiscal year, but because we calculate them on a monthly basis, we, can run those numbers. So I just did that for the first time for this
Oh,
year.
thank you.
So,
Okay.
Yeah, so Ms. Stowers in her presentation also, remarked on the calendar year. So we provided calendar year statistics to her this year, so.
Yeah, that's helpful for
So,
just
yeah, no,
comparing. Yeah, you're busy.
Very busy, yeah.
All right, very good. Any other comments, questions? All right, thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Thompson, appreciate it. Okay, we will, let's see now, move on to item 19, Property Tax Deputy Director's Report, Mr. Young.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Gaines, honorable members of the board. For the record, my name is David Young, Deputy Director of the Property Tax Department. For you today, I actually have 4 reports. The first 2 will be by the Chief of the CAPD, Ms. Lauren Keach. She will update you on letters to assessors and our training and certification programs. After that, I will introduce Ms. Holly Cooper. She'll give you a quarterly update as to the assessment practices surveys. And then the last will be Mr. Jack McCool. He will update you as to what's going on in the State Assessed Properties Division. So if you're ready, I will have Ms. Keach start with the first 2.
Great, thank you.
Ready? Good afternoon, Chairman Gaines and honorable board members. I'm Lauren Keach, Chief of the County Assessed Properties Division. Today, I will provide a brief report on letters to assessors. Attached to this month's agenda is a memo on letters to assessors, which provides a list of the LTAs issued since the last board meeting, and a link to the BOE's website where a list of all LTAs issued to date can be found. BOE staff issued a total of 53 LTAs for calendar year 2024. As of the date of the attached memo, 10 LTAs have been issued, and those LTAs are summarized as follows. An LTA on the Proposition 19 base year value transfer, frequently asked questions and answers. An LTA on taxable publicly owned lands. An LTA to announce the Contra Costa County Assessment Practices Survey. An LTA to announce corrections to the 2024-25 income levels for the welfare exemption. An LTA to announce the vessel valuation factors for lien date 2025. An LTA to issue the 2025 edition of Assessor's Handbook Section 531, Residential Building Costs. An LTA to issue the 2025 edition of Assessor's Handbook Section 534, Rural Building Costs. An LTA to issue the 2025 edition of Assessor's Handbook Section 581, Equipment and Fixtures Index, Percent Good and Valuation Factors. An LTA to announce the Taxpayers' Right Advocate's Office information sheets on the co-tenancy exclusion and reporting requirements when a real property owner dies. And lastly, an LTA to announce the 2025-26 California Consumer Price Index. This concludes my report on letters to assessors. I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you, Ms. Keach. Members, any questions? No, I think we're good.
All right.
Great, Thank you.
I will now provide a brief report on the BOE's appraisal training and certification program. For the 2024-25 fiscal year, BOE staff has scheduled 31 classes and 2 workshops. In addition, 8 classes have been scheduled using instructors from county assessors' offices. Since the last board meeting, the BOE has taught 3 classes, and since the beginning of the fiscal year, the BOE has taught 19 classes. We continue to offer our existing online introductory training courses available through American River College and California State University of Sacramento, as well as online courses and self-study training sessions available on the BOE's website. This concludes my report on training and certification. I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions, members? Yes.
Just a quick one. I'm wondering if, on the demand, you think the number is going to increase or decrease coming forward, especially on these appraisal classes?
Well, the numbers have increased, but it's more so looking at the type of classes that the numbers are looking for. So again, that's why that survey report is so important that we send out to the assessors' offices to see where their students are at, where their staff is at, and what types of classes that they need. So when we create our schedule for the fiscal year, we're really meeting that demand. So what we have seen is the increase in demand for more of the core classes, and we've had conversations with assessors at the conferences on ways that we can better meet the demand, get the students that may be on the wait list into the classes. So thankfully, with the virtual classes, we've been able to increase the course capacity quite substantially and increase our student count for those courses. So I would say it's been successful.
You mention that there's a wait list now?
We do have wait lists. It depends on the course. So it can vary, and it comes up to the time of the class, whether their plans change or not, and they continue to want to take that class. But we do monitor those and, try to ensure that those students can take that class sometime within the fiscal year.
Thank you.
So that's satisfying the needs of our assessors and others?
Yes, that's what we strive to do.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you think they're pretty satisfied with the services we provide?
I would say so, and since I came into this position and have been in more conversations and attending the conferences, we do have those discussions and we welcome feedback. So any feedback that they've given to me or to my staff, we take that back and really try to troubleshoot and come up with solutions so that that they're satisfied.
That's great. Wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Keach.
All right. Thank you.
Next up, we have Ms. Holly Cooper, who will update you on the assessment practices surveys quarterly
Great.
actions.
Hi, Ms. Cooper.
Good afternoon, Chairman Gaines and honorable members of the board. Holly Cooper, Chief of the Assessment Practices Survey Division. Today, I will be presenting an overview of the final survey reports published the fourth quarter of 2024. However, before I get started, I would like to provide a brief background on the programs administered by the Assessment Practices Survey Division. In terms of current auditing practices, what we refer to at the BOE as an assessment practice survey is actually an audit of the county assessors to determine whether property value assessments follow property tax law. The auditors and appraisers in my division perform qualitative compliance audits of assessors' procedures and practices, and perform quantitative audits through the use of defensible statistical sampling of representative assessments from property tax rolls. During the fourth quarter of 2024, the Assessment Practices Survey Division issued 2 audit reports via letters to assessors in Mariposa and Contra Costa County. Starting with Mariposa County, the BOE performed a supplemental audit survey, which is a review of the recommendations noted in the county's prior audit survey to determine whether the assessor implemented BOE's recommendations. We reviewed a total of 8 prior recommendations in the areas of administration, real property, and personal property and fixtures. 6 recommendations were properly implemented. However, we noted that 2 recommendations have not yet been implemented by the assessor. They are expand the written policies regarding incompatible activities and conflict of interest, and perform the minimum number of audits of professions, trades, and businesses pursuant to Section 469. Moving on to the next published audit report, which is the Contra Costa Assessment Practices Audit Survey. We conducted a complete audit, which includes both a survey of administrative, real and business property procedures and practices, and a statistical sampling for roll year 2022 and 23. In the area of administration, we made one multi-part recommendation related to the exemptions program as stated in the report. Grant the welfare exemption in accordance with Section 214A and properly apply late filing provisions for welfare exemption claims that are not filed timely. In the area of real property, we made one recommendation related to the change in ownership program. As stated in the report, reappraise all property exceeding the 1 million exclusion provided in Section 63.1. In the area of personal property and fixtures, we made one recommendation related to the audit program as stated in the report. Perform the minimum number of audits, professions, trades, and businesses pursuant to Section 469. In addition to these recommendations, the published audit report reflects the BOE audit sample findings. Contra Costa had an average assessment ratio of 99.78%, and the sum of absolute differences measuring disparity among assessments was 0.26%. These are both well within tolerance. In summary, for both audit reports, the BOE found no significant assessment problems as defined in Rule 371. Therefore, Mariposa and Contra Costa County assessors are eligible to receive reimbursement of costs associated with administering supplemental assessments. This concludes my quarterly report, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Members, any questions?
Right, thank
I do have one,
Yeah.
Ms. Cooper, if that's okay. And I appreciate you sharing who was under the audit survey last year. Can you share who's going to be up this year in rotation?
In the
Which counties?
rotation, yes. We're actually conducting the random selection. Let me grab my calendar. Would you like the 24, 25 counties that will be performing the field work this calendar year?
Yes, please.
Yes, okay. So we're conducting for Alameda and Orange County, we'll be performing a audit and a sampling. Let's see, El Dorado, Nevada, and Sacramento County will be conducting a sampling. And then for Plumas, Sonoma, Stanislaus, and Tehama, we'll be conducting a survey only.
Oh, very nice. Thank you. That's a good list. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
I just had a general question in terms of these surveys. I mean, do we have any counties that are in trouble?
Since I've been with the Assessment Practice Survey Division, we haven't yet had a county not meet the requirements under 75.6.
They all seem to fit within the guidelines. Is it a margin of error? Is that the means in terms of the scoring? Because it seems like a lot of them are in the higher 90s.
Right, the average is around 99%. They have to at least meet 95%. The ideal ratio is 100. So we've found that most counties are in compliance. And if we do see any issues during sampling, we will follow up in a survey next cycle.
Oh, I see. Okay. And then this information goes to the Board of Supervisors and to the assessor?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. And it's really their responsibility then to take action.
Correct.
We don't have authority, we just do the survey.
Right, we perform the survey, we write the recommendation, and then I believe the assessor is required to follow up within a year with the Board of Supervisors.
Okay.
And then we have in the past followed up on those prior recommendations in a following survey to ensure compliance has been done. And the audit period is usually about 5 years, so It'll be 5 years later, and we'll look back in time to see if those recommendations were implemented.
Is it tougher for rural counties? Are these surveys tougher for them just because they have fewer staff?
It can be. You know, I would say at times we do find more recommendations, but it really just depends.
Okay. So you can have big counties that may have issues too.
Correct, yeah.
There may be the opposite problem is they're so big. that
Right.
It's a harder.
Right, we do
Harder to
still find
manage.
things, but I believe we typically write more recs in smaller counties.
Yeah, okay. Very good.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please.
I have one more follow-up question to that. A few years ago, this board, Control Cone, was able to secure a 3-year, $30 million for assessor technology improvements. Have you been seeing some outcomes of that too, just in terms of assessors' offices modernizing their technology in their offices and
Right.
maybe needing more resources? I mean, I'll let
Yeah,
Mr.
you
Young
wanna
answer
go
that too.
ahead? I was going to say, we
So the
often
grant-
see
the grant
conversion
money,
of
yes, yeah.
databases, but yeah.
Good
I'll let
question.
David.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Deputy Controller Amaron. Yeah, the assessors have, I believe, already gotten the $30 million, and they are in the process of updating some of their computer systems. Right now, what they're really working on is electronic signature portions of it. And the secondary on that is basically digitizing their welfare exemption process too. So they are making progress, but it is a very long-term and an involved update. They're doing it in the form of a JPA. So the Assessors Association, their IT group formed a JPA in which to do this, so they can make this type of systems upgrade and make it available to all the counties who wish to use their updated systems. So,
And this money was evenly dispersed across the 58 counties. Were people applying?
My understanding is it's 10 million for 3 years. I believe this last year is they got in the last 10 million.
Correct.
It's going to the JPA. They're doing it as a joint entity.
Okay, got it.
And so instead of going to individual counties and prorating it, they're just having one entity basically do the development.
Yeah, okay, understood. That'll be nice to hear from them too, when it's all said and done. Thank you.
Yeah, fantastic.
Wonderful.
Thank
And
you.
you think that money's being well spent? I mean, I don't know to what degree we monitor it. I don't even know if that's in our authority or
Well,
not.
we've actually been working jointly with them.
Okay,
So there are some of the issues that we're working on right now is part of the legislation that passed that added Revenue Taxation Code 168.1. The board actually has a role in approving their way of authenticating electronic signature. So we have actually been working with them on that. And my humble opinion is that anything that brings standardization and modernization and digitizing property tax administration in California, I think is a worthy endeavor. So,
okay, very good.
Okay.
Thank you,
of course.
Mr. Young, appreciate that.
Okay.
And Ms. Cooper, thank you. And I think we now have Jack McCool coming forward.
Yes, last but not least.
Yes, okay. This is next sub-item, state assessed property, presented by Jack McCool.
Thank you, Chairman Gaines and honorable members. My name is Jack McCool, Chief of the State Assessed Properties Division. Today, I will provide information on the status of ongoing work in our division. Now that the 2024 appeal season has concluded, SAPD is now concentrating our preparations for the 2025 appraisal season. Staff are currently working on the annual replacement cost new factors and the percent good factors, which are used in our cost approach appraisals. We publish these factors each year based on data collected and analyzed by our staff. We will continue to publish these factors on the agency's open data portal. Staff are also working diligently on compiling data for this year's annual capitalization rate study. Appraisers with knowledge and expertise in each of our industry groups are working together to obtain the market data used in the study. The data is analyzed by our unitary appraisers, and input from state assessees is also considered. We are still working in the data gathering portion of the process, but staff will be working on the study for the next several weeks. We hope to have it completed in early to mid-March. Finally, the date to file the annual state assessed property statement is March 1st, and staff are already receiving extension requests from state assessees. Requests for an extension to file the annual property statement must be received prior to March 1st. That concludes my report, and I'm available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCool. Any questions? Seeing none, we appreciate it. I don't know if Mr. Young wants to make any final comments.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Members, we are agreeing on taking a 10-minute break, so if we could reconvene at 2:33, that would be great. Let us proceed. See, our next item should be item 20, Special Taxes Quarterly Report presented by Ms. Williams. Great, thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman Gaines and honorable members of the board. My name is Laura Williams. I'm the BOE's technical advisor for our special tax programs, which are the insurance and the alcoholic beverage tax programs. Today, I'd like to start by noting that due to the BOE's foresight after the COVID pandemic, we were able to have some legislation passed, which allowed us to extend due dates for natural disasters as soon as the governor proclaims a state of emergency, instead of having to wait for an executive order to extend the due dates. This allowed us, in conjunction with CDTFA, to work quickly and seamlessly to automatically extend the due date for our alcoholic beverage tax programs, which many had for those in the areas impacted by the Southern California wildfires. Many of our ABT programs account holders have returns due that would have been due, they would have been due January 31st, and we were able to push that out 90 days automatically, and we will review as it gets closer. For the tax on insurers, those have a due date of April 1st, so we have a time period to review and see if any of those account holders are impacted by the fires and potentially extend at that time. So with that said, I'll be going on to my regular report. I'll start with the tax on insurers.
Can I interrupt this for a moment in terms of the 90-day extension? Can that be extended more than once?
We can do an additional extension. For the alcoholic beverage tax, we do have a very small group of taxpayers that are based in those areas that were impacted. And so those were, back when I started, you had to actually file for an extension of time, and now it's automatic. And then, if it seems like it's an ongoing issue, or additional areas are proclaimed in the state of emergency, additional extensions can happen.
All right, great, please proceed.
So with the tax on insurers program, the number of accounts that we have in the program has been relatively static since my November report at 2,742. According to the December 2024 Department of Finance Bulletin, the revenues for this program for fiscal year 24-25 are at $1.87 billion, which is approximately $138 million, or 8% above the forecasted amount. As far as compliance, this program remains very highly compliant. The alcoholic beverage tax program, there are 10,688 accounts, which is very slightly fewer than in my November report. This is typical, as many of the alcoholic beverage tax accounts file annually. And so with that January 31st due date, so many who may have closed earlier in the year forget to close out their account with us until they get the reminder in December. They get an email reminder to e-file, and they're like, oh yeah, I need to file my return and say that I'm closed. So it is common to see kind of a drop-off. And then according to the December 2024 Department of Finance Bulletin, the revenues for this program are just at $182 million, which is exactly the forecasted amount. The opt-in, opt-out rate for the wine grower and the beer manufacturer returns have remained consistent since my last report at approximately 65% and 55% respectively. This program also remains highly compliant. So with that concludes the report for this time, unless you have any questions.
Okay, any questions? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Ms. Williams.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Okay, our next item is item 21, Legislative Research and Statistics Division Chief's Report. Mr. Angelo.
Good afternoon, Chairman Gaines and honorable members. I'm Ted Angelo, the Legislative Director and Chief of the Legislative Research and Statistics Division. Today, I'll provide a brief report on the early legislative introductions that we're following that could impact the BOE's tax programs or its administration. The deadline to submit language to the Legislative Council is tomorrow. So this is the deadline of the normal first flurry where you have to get things drafted up and get them into Legislative Council, which drafts them up so they can be introduced into bills. Those bills must be introduced by February 21st. And then the typical process for that is the bill has to be in print 30 days before it can be heard in the policy committees. And this is all in a normal legislative session. We also have the special session going on, which Ms. Stowers already talked about. The legislative policy committees would then hear the majority of these new introduced bills after February 21st in mid-March, some earlier than others if there's early introductions. Prior to their first spring recess, which is in April 10th to April 20th. So understandably, the governor and the legislature have focused the first few weeks of this 25-26 session on legislation and technical issues for disaster relief that we've heard about throughout today's meeting, primarily for the fire victims in Southern California. Other bills recently introduced include bills regarding veterans exemptions and also on accessory dwelling units, which we've dealt with over the past couple of years. I'll have more on those for you as they're introduced and amendments are put in and during my summaries that I send out on a weekly basis to all of you. Also, in case Ms. Stowers didn't already touch on it, the legislature in special session today passed two supplemental budget proposals for, I think it was $2.5 billion. I know you mentioned it, but they did pass the bills, and I think the governor was having a press event at like 3 or 3:30 to go over what they're doing in, augmenting last year's, because we're talking about a fiscal year budget rather than the new budget. So that took place earlier today while we were meeting.
Question if I could on that?
Sure.
So augmentation meaning additional revenue?
It's augmenting funds, $2.5 billion, and I don't have all the details on it, but it was augmenting because we're talking fiscal year 24-25 budget.
Yes.
They have to go back in. Go
Excuse me,
ahead.
Ted,
No,
I'm sorry,
please.
Yvette Stowers, is part of the special legislation to provide additional funding for the wildfire victims.
Yes, okay.
So it's 2.5, 4 million, and 1.2 million. The 2.5 is directly to cleanup.
Okay. And we don't, is that a pass-through of federal dollars coming down? Or do we even know?
Those are state dollars.
Those are state dollars. Okay. Very well. Great.
And it was agreed upon by everyone.
They're acting quickly. All right, thank you.
So regarding BOE-sponsored proposals, as approved by the board in December, the BOE-sponsored language to consolidate the assessment appeals deadline to November 30th for all counties was submitted by myself to the Revenue Tax Committee to go to council. So it hasn't been introduced yet, but that will most likely go into a committee bill and hopefully be non-controversial. The second proposal approved by the board to amend Business and Profession Code Section 23671 to require electronic filing of beer vendor reports, consistent with the requirements in the Revenue Tax Code that we handled in the prior session. That was cleaning up a technical flaw, will likely go in an omnibus bill for the Revenue Tax Committee bill that deals with CDTFA matters. They usually have them separate like that. So that was the second measure of the two that were approved by you in December. It's still early in the legislative process, and new bills are being introduced on a daily basis. My team is already helping prepare comprehensive analyses for all the active bills. These analyses are posted on our website and on the Legislative Research and Statistics Division page. I'll also continue to provide your offices with weekly legislative reports, like I've done in the past, of all the bills the agency is tracking. And those are pretty much bills, as we've broken down before, that either the board is supporting, like you've talked about earlier today, those that you want to consider and may consider as the session moves forward, the bills that impact the agency, and bills that we're watching that may have an impact on us or are very close to what our jurisdiction is. Or from a public policy perspective, we just want you to know about. We put on that list and we send them out on a weekly basis. So with that, members, this concludes my report, and I'm available to answer any questions you might have.
Members, any questions? Yes, Member Vasquez.
Thank you for that update, Mr. Angelo. Did I hear you correctly that you're going to be following those, especially that we're talking about, as we were earlier mentioning the affordable housing front, obviously these disasters, that's going to happen. We're going to get I think a lot of folks weighing in on this one, both on the Assembly and the Senate.
Right.
So you'll be able to track those and keep us up to date on what's happening with
Yeah, I would say the what's kind of an anomaly is the disaster relief has taken, everybody's attention.
Yeah.
And so right now, this is kind of like the rumor, who's going to put what into council. For those that are inside, political nerds like myself, they know, who's submitting what into council and what's going to be the big issue going on this year, on whatever subject it is. That's kind of been taken away because of the disaster we're dealing with down south. So there's not as many bills introduced early on, and they did the special session to deal with, funding for this issue from a budget perspective. But legislation that will impact BOE or disaster relief that you may want to support, we'll be watching. And whether or not it impacts the agency, it'll be fully analyzed, and I'll be sending those to you.
No, that'd be great. I appreciate it, because that was going to be one of my questions, is that I didn't know how far we can push this through your department and through your resources with the executive director. So I know what maybe we can do on our end. And at some point, I guess we should have a conversation and figure out what our role should be, I'm thinking, as members.
Yeah.
And then,
Yep.
so we don't step on each other's toes, basically, right?
Correct, sir. As the legislation is placed into print, especially the disaster relief legislation that I kind of highlighted, clearly those statutes are revenue taxation statutes dealing with property tax statutes that we do oversight on. So Mr. Angelo will be doing a bill analysis on on those statutes. But I will remind you, Government Code 15600 says that the board members do not interfere with or influence our bill analysis. It's completely independent. But as far as the board members wanting to support the legislation, and it appears that most likely you do, I will send it to you once it's out, and you will be able to make a decision on who wants to present it on the board agenda for board support.
No, that'd be great, because now one of our big supporters too, Senator Mike Gibson, is chair of Rev and Tax, so that'll be helpful too.
Correct.
As we look at this stuff.
Okay. Just want to keep it separate.
No.
I can do a lot more than what he can do.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, great, thank you. Okay, I think Deputy Controller Emron, question?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Gaines and Mr. Angelo. I mean, outside of the affordable housing space, is there anything else you foreshadowed the legislators, especially the new ones, tackling this year that the board should be aware of in terms of maybe climate and?
Nothing that I've heard of directly, other than veterans issues that I kind of mentioned. I know they're going to work on some things like that, but those have been attempted in the past, and there's always been revenue-based issues that have held them up either in the probes or whatnot, despite what people want to do in that area, but that's the only other area.
Got it, thank you.
Oh, the other one, and maybe Chair Gaines, you might be on this one too, is the whole property insurance piece moving forward. Have you heard any rumblings on that front?
This is outside of my duties, but what I do know is based on, the hearings that we had and what I've tracked just watching that front, the FAIR Plan, is overwhelmed.
I can imagine.
And now it's going to be even more so. So I would imagine there's going to be something in discussions in that realm, because when it comes down to it, when you live in a fire-prone zone and insurers that are outside of the FAIR Plan, the standard insurers don't want to write and take the risk there, but people are under pressure and timeframes to rebuild. And again, the legislature is going to be very sensitive to that, and that's why we were talking about how long it takes. Paradise, is a good example of that. It takes time, but when you have to carry insurance to rebuild, and the affordability and availability of it, as Mr. Gaines' hearing, touched on, it's a touchy issue. So I would imagine there's going to be something going on with that.
And we'll be tracking that. I know you
We'll
said.
be watching it,
All right.
and
Appreciate it.
yep.
I'm hearing some level of optimism on the insurance market, and we'll just have to see, because I think Insurance Commissioner Lara has been working hard on trying to figure out what the right fixes are to get the market opened up again. And I had heard that there was, that companies are looking to open back up and actually write more business. And they think they can make it work with this formula that the insurance commissioner is working on. So I'm hopeful that we're going to see some relief here, but we got to keep an eye on it.
He spent this last weekend with us, and he stayed until, they were supposed to be by appointment only, and he stayed until like 8 in the evening with folks that were just walking in, walk-ins.
Yeah.
And he had good participation from all the major insurers.
Right.
I was surprised.
Yes, yeah.
They all came out.
I think they're embracing
Yeah.
his proposal, so I'm hoping that'll be the case, and we'll see some relief. But the folks in LA are going to be going through a lot of hell for years. I mean, I hate to say that. We'd like to do it. We want to do everything we can to speed it up, but it's just a long process.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Angelo, appreciate that. And this is now an opportunity for public comment of the executive director's reports. We do not have any written comments or anyone in the auditorium who wishes to make any public comment on the executive director reports. Therefore, let's go to AT&T moderator. AT&T moderator, please let us know if anyone is on the telephone that would like to make a public comment regarding these items on the agenda.
Yes, and again, if you'd like to make a public comment, please press 1 then 0. There are no lines in queue.
All right, thank you, moderator. Next item is closed session, and we have item 22, pending litigation, Southern California Edison versus California State Board of Equalization. And just for clarification, should I recite the entire? Okay. Okay, great, thank you. And then public comment for closed session. I don't believe, we wouldn't have any written comments, right? Or anybody here to comment in reference to that just yet. So the board's going to go into recess for closed session.
Excuse me, we need to go out to
okay.
the moderator for the public comment on the closed session to align with the Bagley-Keene rules.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Sure.
AT&T moderator, please let us know if there's anyone on the line who would like to make a public comment regarding these items on the agenda.
And if there is anyone online who would like to make a public comment at this time, please press 1 followed by 0. There are no lines in queue.
Thank you, moderator. The board will now go into recess for closed session. Okay, the board has returned from closed session. And we will now reconvene the board meeting. And I'd like to refer to Ms. Taylor.
Thank you. The board members met in closed session, discussed litigation matters, and there was no action taken.
Great, thank you, Ms. Taylor. Last item for today is a closing remark and adjournment as requested by Ms. Stowers. We will now adjourn the meeting in honor of Keiko Ward on behalf of the board, and we send our sincere condolences and prayers to her family and to the loved ones. And as you probably know, she was a tax technician number 2 in the legal entity ownership program since 2021, and had a meaningful impact on the agency through her eagerness to learn and grow by providing outstanding customer service to California taxpayers, her commitment to helping others and ensuring their concerns were addressed with care and professionalism, and it was a testament to her character. Keiko had a unique ability to uplift those around her through her positive attitude and welcoming smile. She was not only our co-worker, but a great friend to many. And she will be deeply missed by her colleagues and certainly her family. She leaves 4 adult children. And so our thoughts and prayers are with the family in a very tough moment. So we will now adjourn in memory of Keiko Ward. And I don't know if other members would want to make any comments or not. Okay. Deputy Controller.
Thank you, Chairman Gaines. I did want to make one in memoriam as well. On Sunday night in downtown San Francisco, there's a 27-year-old Mikhail Romanenko who was walking his dog and got hit by a car that was going 100 miles an hour down one of the most densest streets, one of the most densest neighborhoods in San Francisco, and unfortunately lost his life. There were 7 others that were also injured. And I want to send out a prayer to him and his family, and to the 7 others injured. I wish you all a speedy recovery. And I don't have the answer, and I talk about traffic fatalities quite often on this board, whether it be speed bumps or speed cameras or whatever it is. I think we need to make a safe place for people to be able to go outside and walk their pets or drop off their children to school or just get a breath of fresh air. But the status quo is certainly not working. And on that Sunday night, a young man, a San Francisco resident, lost his life in a very preventable accident, 100 miles an hour down an urban street. I think is unacceptable. And I know the police is going to be investigating this fully. So my prayers to everyone involved, and I hope we can see better days. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, and our thoughts and prayers go to the family. Members, yes.
Just one more I forgot to mention earlier when we started the meeting, is to also include with this adjournment the 27 lives that so far we've lost here in this wildfire disaster in LA.
Absolutely.
You can include that. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Member Vasquez. Okay. We will adjourn at 3:16 p.m. Our next board meeting will be Wednesday, February 19th, 2025 at 10 a.m. at the May Lee State Office Complex in Sacramento. Thank you so much.